Chapter 4. The Prophet's Childhood and Adolescence. After his birth, Prophet Muhammad stayed with his mother Amina for a while, and then, as per tradition, was handed over to his wet nurse. The purpose of entrusting children to a wet nurse was so that they could be raised in the desert, a healthier environment in which to grow up when compared to the city, and so that they could learn fluent Arabic. In accordance with this tradition, Prophet Muhammad was given to Alima bint Abi Du'ab, who was a member of the Sa'id ibn Bakr branch of the Hawazin tribe. In a year of famine, Halima had gone to Makkah with her husband and other Bedouin women who earned a living through nursing. However, she was unable to find a child from a rich family to nurse. But when she learned that Muhammad had lost his father, she did not hesitate to take him, and she agreed to be his wet nurse so that she would not return home empty-handed. Halima brought Prophet Muhammad back to Makkah 2 years later. However, Amina wanted her child to stay with Halima for a little longer, as she believed that the desert air was good for her child, and, according to some accounts, there was a plague in Makkah. Prophet Muhammad stayed with his wet nurse until he was 5 or 6 years old, and was then brought to Makkah and handed over to his mother. Halima's husband was Harith ibn Abdul Uzza. The couple's children, Abdullah, Unaysa and Shema, were the Prophet's foster siblings. According to narration, Halima and Harith witnessed great abundance and blessing after taking Prophet Muhammad in their care. Their camels and sheep began to provide much more milk than they had before. In addition, the sources revealed that the splitting of the chest, or Shaq al-Sadir, incident occurred during the time Prophet Muhammad was staying with his wet nurse. This was an event in which 2 angels descended to earth, split open Muhammad's chest, removed his heart, and purified it from all evils, washing it with heavenly water and then putting it back in its place. It is recorded that when Halima and Harith learned about this incident, they were very anxious, as they were unable to explain certain extraordinary characteristics of Muhammad that they had witnessed many times before. They now thought that it would be better for the child to be back with his family. When Prophet Muhammad reached the age of 6, his mother Amina took him in her care, and together with her helper Ayman, took him to Yathrib. While there, they visited the grave of her husband, Abdullah, and the members of the Banu Najjar, who were considered uncles of the family due to Abdul Muttalib's mother. After staying in Yathrib for a month, Amina, still young at the time, became ill and later died in Abwa, located 190 kilometers from Medina, while on the way back to Makkah. It is said that before her death, Amina looked at her child and said, "All living things perish, all things new get old, all things in abundance diminish, all things great disappear. Certainly I too will die, but I will always be remembered, because I leave to the world my son as a benevolent future." Orphaned with the death of his mother, Muhammad was brought back to Makkah by Ayman and entrusted to the care of his grandfather Abdul Muttalib. Prophet Muhammad revisited Abwa in the 6th year following the emigration, in 628 AD, and visited his mother's grave. Tidying the grave with his own hands, he shed tears as he remembered the affection and compassion of his mother. Greatly affected by his grief, the companions could not hold back their tears and cried with him. Abdul Muttalib took great care of Muhammad as the precious gift from his son Abdullah, who had died at an early age. He would sit at the table and eat with Muhammad, offer him the seat of honor located in the shadow of the wall of the Kaaba, and take him to the meetings of the Nadwa. Take him to the meetings in Nadwa, council hall, over which he presided, and through all his actions tried his utmost to ensure that his grandson did not feel the absence of fatherly compassion and love. More than 80 years of age at the time, Abdul Muttalib passed away not long after he had handed over the custody and protection of his grandson, then 8 years of age, to the latter's paternal uncle, Abu Talib. Abu Talib was born from the same father and mother as the Prophet's father. He loved his nephew more than his own children, believing that the child had brought fortune to the family, and he made great efforts to raise him well. He would take Muhammad with him on some of his journeys. And so, when the Prophet was 9 or 12 years old, and his uncle had decided to go to Syria for trade, he wanted to accompany Abu Talib. Seeing his nephew's insistence on this, Abu Talib took the Prophet with him on his journey. The caravan stopped in Bosra, located in Syria. A monk called Bahira, living in a monastery, invited the caravan to join him for a meal. After Bahira told Abu Talib that Muhammad was the awaited prophet foretold in the Bible, he cautioned Abu Talib against some of the dangers that his nephew could face, and advised Abu Talib to protect his nephew well. Upon this warning, Abu Talib ended his journey and returned to Mecca. It is known that when Prophet Muhammad was about 10 years old, he worked as a shepherd for a period of time in order to help his uncle Abu Talib, who had a large family. He would later refer to this time during his prophethood saying, "There has never been a prophet who did not herd sheep." When his companions asked, "Did you herd sheep, O Messenger of God?" he replied, "Yes, I herded the sheep of Mecca." Abu Talib's wife, Fatima bint Asad, took great care of Muhammad, caring for him more than her own children. The Prophet never forgot the goodness of his aunt when he grew up. He would visit her in her house in Medina and would sometimes sleep there in the afternoons. Very grieved when she passed away, the Prophet used his own shirt for her shroud and personally led her funeral prayer. When speaking of his sadness to those around him, he showed his great sense of loyalty with the following words: "I was a child who was in need of her custody. She would feed me even if her children were hungry. She would leave her children and comb my hair. She was like my mother." Abu Talib stood by his nephew after he became a prophet, and although Prophet Muhammad's persistent requests that Abu Talib accept Islam were never answered, Abu Talib did his best to protect Prophet Muhammad, both as a child and later when he became a prophet. There were frequent wars between the Arab tribes in the Age of Ignorance, so much so that there would even be warfare during the sacred months Dhul al-Qadar, Dhul Hijjah, Muharram and Rajab, during which bloodshed was prohibited. Such battles were known as fijar, or sacrilegious wars, because of their being fought in the sacred months. The Prophet was compelled to join such a war in his later teens. The most reliable account states that the Prophet and his uncles participated in the great battle that broke out between the Quraysh-Kinana and Qais Aylan alliances, but that he did not actually fight in the war, rather protecting the belongings of his uncles, deflecting arrows with his shield, and then collecting them to give to his uncles. It is thought that he was either 14, 15, 17 or 20 years old at the time. Prophet Muhammad participated in a meeting when he was 20 for a league known as the Hilf al-Fudul, the Alliance of the Virtuous. The Hilf al-Fudul was drawn up to prevent injustices that were being carried out against the weak and defenceless who came to Mecca for pilgrimage or trade, and to prevent the tribal wars that broke out frequently. The Hilf al-Fudul was drawn up under the auspices of Zubayr ibn Abdul Muttalib, Prophet Muhammad's uncle, and under the leadership of Judon at-Taimi, the richest, oldest, and most influential tribal leader in Mecca. Those who joined the league took an oath that they would protect everyone in Mecca who encountered injustice, be they natives or foreigners, acting as one and helping each other financially to ensure that justice was served. Prophet Muhammad talked about this alliance, praising it, and said, "I was present in Abdullah ibn Judan's house when they concluded a pact so excellent that I would not change my part in it even for a herd of red camels. If I was asked now in Islam to take part in it, I would gladly agree." According to an account by Balazuri, in the Islamic period, Abdul Jahl refused to pay the price of something that he had purchased from a man. According to an account by Balazuri, in the Islamic period, Abu Jahl refused to pay the price of something that he had purchased from a man who was a member of the Arash. A polytheist who knew the hostility of Abu Jahl towards the Prophet jokingly told the aggrieved trader that he could apply to the Prophet who was in the Kaaba, and that the Prophet would give him his money back. Upon hearing these words, the trader went to the Kaaba, explained the situation to Prophet Muhammad, and asked for his help. The Prophet went to Abu Jahl's house and took back the money without any confrontation. Prophet Muhammad made his living through trade, like many of the Quraysh in Mecca. He embarked on his career in trade by helping Abu Talib, who is involved in trading cloth and grain. Prophet Muhammad continued this trade when his uncle became older. It is known that Prophet Muhammad travelled to various places for purposes of trade, such as to the Hubasha trade fair when he was a teenager, to Yemen once or twice, to the Mushaka and Daba fairs in eastern Arabia, and even to Abyssinia. As a result of these journeys, Prophet Muhammad not only learned about the necessities of commercial life, but also became acquainted with the people living in certain regions of Arabia, and learned about their languages, dialects, religions, and political and social conditions. There is consensus among the sources that Prophet Muhammad lived an honest life and remained removed from the wrongdoing prevalent in the age of ignorance, and came to be known at the age of 25 as Muhammad al-Amin, or Al-Amin, the trustworthy, because of his decency, bravery, compassion, fairness, and his honesty and reliability in commercial life. The Meccan trader Qais ibn Sa'ib stated that he had many commercial dealings with Prophet Muhammad, and that he had never come across a partner in trade who was better than he. He said, "When he set out on a journey, I would refer to him some transactions that needed to be carried out for me. After the journey, he would not return to his house until he had told me about the transactions in such a way as would make me content. In contrast, when I set out on my travels and he gave some transactions to perform, upon my return he would only ask whether I was healthy and in good spirits, unlike other people who only questioned me on issues relating to their business."